So here we are, sharing secrets of the soil with me, your host, Regen Ray. Hello, soil lovers, and welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Soil. I'm your host, Regen Ray, and today we're going to start digging deeper with our great friend, Rachelle Armstrong, who used to work at Nutrisoil, and that's where we first met. Rachelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Hi, soil lovers. Nice to be with you.
It's a lot of fun. We love digging deep. Share with our community who you are and some of the new projects that you're working on.
Right. So as Ray mentioned, some of you may know me from Nutrisoil, the family business that was 15 years of my life. Now we've actually transitioned into sort of a new business. Soil restoration farming is what it's called. And we actually started that about 5 years ago with Christine Jones. So it has a history in education. And a lot of the events we did, and we built community soil restoration farmers, we used to call them, a bit like soil lovers. We did a lot of that over in Western Australia, where, because, you know, the thing that the further you travel away, the more you're respected. So we had a lot of success over there. And now we're based in lockdown, as everyone is these days. Northeast Victoria, just 5 kilometres away from the Nutrisoil, which is still going strong, of course. And we are building a network. So soil restoration farming is a network of farmers, educators, and coaches. Now, the particular emphasis, and particularly at the moment, is on the coaching side. So all those years that we wanted to help educate and support farmers through Nutrisoil, we would always find farmers saying, no matter what the education was, how many hours, days, and all different types of educators, at the end, when we had question time, we always found people say, but where do we start? And that was always frustrating to me, because I didn't understand what it was that was, I guess, missing for people. And it wasn't one farmer, it was a whole cross-section. So what we realized is that we needed people in the, this consulting coaching space. And then we just tried to look for them. And we found it difficult to find people that, were able to be in business themselves. There was a lot of people interested. So we kept looking at this set, and we had a lot of friends and connections that were really passionate about working with farmers, but they still didn't have the ability or confidence to be out there running that as their business themselves. So we decided to actually do something a little bit different. So we are building a coaching community. So that's a big part of what we're doing now. And that coaching community is different from, we're not teaching people how to be consultants and coaches. We feel there's lots of knowledge and plenty of courses and things out there. There's sort of no limit to what you can learn these days. But we're actually creating a space, or an ecology and a safe space for coaches to come together. So there's plenty of people out there that are in this I guess conundrum of wanting to work with farmers, but not having support to do that. And that's what we're doing. So we're meeting weekly. We've had a 6-week pilot program a couple of months back, which went really well, with about 10 farmers from Australia and New Zealand. So we're really excited to be working with our New Zealand friends, neighbours. And so we're meeting weekly, and there is an education component, but it's not the main focus. So it's every 4th week we have what we call a thought leader, who can come in, and there are people like Martin Royds. This is the September. In October, there's Walter Yaner, and so you've got people that are really ready for robust discussion. It's to further on the knowledge that we've already got and apply it. So hope that wasn't too much detail for what we're up to.
I love it. I think there's so many levels there in regards to like being around like-minded people, supporting each other, bridging the gap of feeling isolated and alone, And really importantly, like, how do I start? You know, I feel like there's people who finish university with pieces of paper and degrees and go, awesome, I'm a psychiatrist now, but how do I start? Where do I go? How do I start? You know, it's not just in this space. I think it's very common to bridge that gap and highlight that as a need in the market space. I think it's definitely going to be the launch pad of so many people getting the confidence to start their next enterprise or their business or their why.
Yeah, so we've got people interested from both the, like you say, people that have graduated from courses, but we've also got experienced people that have been working many years in agroecology and this space, but they're on their own. They don't have a space where they can just be vulnerable. Like, as you can imagine, they always get that expert, hat put on them that, and when they're with their clients all the time, they've always got to feel like that, they have to have the answers. But in this space, it's really about, being able to ask any questions and have the collective intelligence of the group to be able to, bring back things that can help them. So, and what we're really trying to do is actually push the edge of understanding. So we're not just sitting with what's known.
Yeah, I see that word being used a lot in holistic management, where it's like, look at the edge, see what's happening on the edge, because it can tell you a million stories, where the two ecosystems join. That's like the edge of two farms kind of coming together, or two landscapes, and, looking at it holistically. And so what are some of the people, so if there's soil lovers listening, how do they know that they're wearing the hat to be a good fit for your program? Like, what are some of the traits and ideas and things that people need to be thinking about in order to work more closely with you?
Yeah, sure. We spent that 6-week pilot program isolating this sort of, getting the foundations for this sort of information. So as a group, we decided that as long as you had to be passionate about working with farmers, whole systems thinkers, so, thinking in how everything's connected, keen to regenerate the land, businesses and mindsets, and maybe in the order of mindsets first, but it's all those things. Another box that really needs to be ticked is that they see farmers as the decision makers. So we're not actually asking for solutions-based experts. That's not what. That's basically partly what got us into the problems that we've got these days. We took the decision making away from farmers. So it's very important that they see the farmers as the decision makers, and finally that they do the learning through trials, observing and mimicking nature. And to create positive feedback loops. That's in a nutshell what needs to be embodied by a coach or a consultant to come into this community. And we've got some principles that to try and sort of define what's different about the way we're doing this. And one of the important principles is around knowledge sharing. So we think it's really important to be reciprocal with knowledge. Nobody really owns knowledge. I don't think there'd be too many people around. I don't think there's anyone that has the original knowledge and thought. So it's always got to start from somewhere. And so we're really into that being shared. The other side to that is that it must be acknowledged where you get it, the source of information. So yeah, if that makes sense. So that's another deciding factor. And when people book a call to talk to me about being in the community, they answer a few questions, and we have one basically saying, how do you feel about sharing knowledge? And it's really, everybody so far has just been like, 100%, happy about that. So we're just making sure that that's one area. And yeah, a significant principle is people being their own kind of different. So we're not trying to produce robots.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And well, it's amazing how much people have really warmed to that unique aspect about themselves. Like, we're always trying to put labels on people, and so just even saying the word coach, it's just like, oh, what do I have to be? And what we're looking for is what's unique about you, and that's going to help us find answers to like wicked problems that we have in agriculture. So we don't know what those answers are yet. We're just excited to be part of this process. So it's all about framing up and setting up a process and a safe ecology, if you like, to be able to bring these things out. And it's early days.
I love that. And I think giving people that space where that magic can kind of be innovated and thought.
Nice magic, yeah.
It is very magical. I always say that this space is like that, and that's what drew me into this field of work is I love learning out loud. I love learning something and then sharing it to people. And I agree with what you just said. Like, nothing's really new. A lot of the textbooks that come out these days, not from say soil science, but like even just business coaching or mindset coaching, it's all someone else's idea from many, many years ago. They just changed it to say, instead of newspapers, it's TikTok. It's the same values, just different medium, because we communicate differently as society has changed. So there's not a lot of new thinking. It's a lot of the same values, and humans and psychology kind of works the same. Doesn't matter what era of time we're from. So I think it's an awesome space. I'm like, how do I apply? I love the fact that you've got like this, I call them hurdles in business. It's like, if you want to come and work with us, this is the little hurdle you need to hop over. And if you don't do this hurdle, then you're not going to, survive on the other side. So where does your business coaching and like ideas of putting these kind of questionnaires come from? Is it something that you've learned over years, or?
Look, I think it's about being in a field that you're not trained in. It's a really strange thing to say. I was trained, so my bachelor degree was in health sciences, majoring in public health. And so I thought the whole world was about health. If you had health, that's it. But when I went overseas, I went and lived and worked in Sri Lanka for several years. And I soon found out that, it's all good and well to have your health, but if you don't have, a way to earn an income, then, then you can't get anywhere. So it sort of started expanding my mindset. And I had my first boss, if you like, or, my over there was Conrad Ranawaka, and he was incredibly good at like project proposals and grant writing, in the sense that he was a strategic thinker. I just thought he was just good at achieving the projects, but it was the fact that he could break down objectives into strategies and actions and that. So I suppose that's one of my earliest good influences, being there and realizing that there's, more to the world than what you decide. There's always going to be, you have to get out there. And then, I worked for local government in community development and with youth. And I had no training in youth, and it was just something in a very small local government area that they just tacked onto my job. So again, I had fresh thinking, when it came to working with youth, and mine was, just to sort of throw up my hands and ask them what they thought the solutions were. And it turned out that was a really good strategy. So I've sort of stumbled along the way, and of course, then to end up partnering with my parents with Nutrisoil. Now, I did grow up on the farm, but I never saw myself in agriculture. I trained in health sciences and things. So when I again came to an area I wasn't trained in, I didn't have the same fixed thinking, I suppose, as to how it would go. And, I did one of those NICE programs that they do the Cert 4 in business. It's a government, probably one of the best government programs, because it either teaches
never spoken about.
What? Yeah, isn't
never
it?
Spoken about. So many people don't know about the NICE program. It's a hidden. Yeah.
Yeah, new enterprise incentive scheme it was. And basically, if you get through the 6-week program, they'll give you your bread and butter money. So it's like about the dole for a year. It's about $10,000. But what they say is, if we give you enough money to pay your rent, then you can focus on your business. So that was a very good, that was a first step in business. So I highlighted things like, concerns about like the SWOT analysis about being a woman in agriculture, and they just didn't know. They didn't, they just said that I don't see how that could be a problem. And then when I sort of got into business, I questioned, doing things in agriculture the same way as others did it. So I guess it wasn't being so smart about it, but it wasn't being stuck in the ways of training. So I really think that has helped me a lot. And of course, in the last, 4 or 5 years, having a business coach So actually investing in somebody to look from the outside in at the way you are in business, it had a huge impact. So yeah, get you out of the, as they say, working in the business and get you more working on the business. So
yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of farmers can take that and it's like less working on the farm and working in the farm and working on the farm. And I want to just highlight to soil lovers listening, I get emails all the time saying, I'm not a farmer and I don't think that's a positive. And I want to break that mold, because what you just said then as well, like there is nothing like a blank canvas. There's nothing like going into a space and going, I know nothing about youth. And that's where innovation happens, because you start having to rely on what you do know that most people in youth probably aren't thinking about. So I see first-time farmers, first-generation farmers, people falling in love with soil and want to do something. And I'm one of those kind of examples. I come from business, entrepreneur, marketing background and fallen in love with soil. And it's a different way that I can approach the business, because I'm not the cliche farmer. And while I have a lot of empathy and I've owned land and I spend a lot of time with farmers, there's a bit of a uniqueness of taking this idea from the view, from the lens that's not the farmer, and kind of zooming out a little bit. And I think that's where a lot of innovation happens, when someone has to change a career and it's the first time that they're in that and they go, but hang on, in hospitality, we do it like this, even though I'm now in manufacturing, maybe there's some overlap, and that there's a real magic, again, there's that word, in that blank canvas. You don't have to do it the way that other people have done it before. And I admire that you've been able to do that. And that's a distinction that we can talk about today.
I think that's really something great that you've brought to the, regen space, Ray, for sure. Like just a whole different professional background. So actually a really major thing that I brought, if I brought anything to agriculture, I didn't realize I was doing it. But so when I was over in Western Australia, this youth and community development role, I just embody community development. I love that aspect. And I suppose that's a little bit how I started in public health, looking at whole populations and communities. But when I was at Nutrisoil and focusing on this education, because that's what I initially identified, that farmers needed, and they still do need education. But I was approaching it from a community development perspective. And it took me a few years before I realized that what I was doing was building community. And so we'd have these 100 to 200 people events, and lo and behold, the feedback would tell us that the networking was some of the most significant things that people were getting back from it. So education as well, and great speakers for sure. And Farming Secrets was pretty much along for that whole ride. And that's where we got to know Helen and Hugo so well, and they filmed a lot of those events. And now, again, the relationships built back then are, coming to the fore with soil restoration farming. So I'm in a great space. Yeah,
I love that. And you can tell you're glowing, and it's awesome to see. And being, again, from the kind of outside and seeing how all the ecosystem works together, it's just really nice to know that there's support out there. One of the first things I realized when I came into this space was farmers would talk to me and they say, like, I'm the alone one in my town that's doing it differently, and everyone's like putting labels on me that I'm doing it woo-woo, or it's like this whole kind of hippie way of farming. And I know, like, gosh, in the last 2 years, I've just seen it completely go past the tipping point, and the demand to go regenerative and to go syntropic and to go whatever you want to call it above the ground, but really focusing on the soil and the biology and even what you said before about the farmer making the decisions. It's like, do I want to put this input on my farm, not because some rep who gets paid commission is telling me to do it, and making the decision and go, yes, I've done my research and I want to use that input. And it's with the understanding that X and Y and Z needs to be true. So making, the farmer responsible for that decision, and not doing it alone, connecting. There are no borders now. We all jump in on Zoom. COVID unfortunately has brought a lot of fast track into this embracement of Zoom and the internet and having to do business with no borders. You know, farmers used to have to drive 6 hours to get to a shed to attend a conference for a weekend with muddy boots, and now they can do it, you know, in the evenings, still with muddy boots, but in their living room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, we see at soil restoration farming, we see it as we need to bring back the village concept. So we want the farmer to be the decision maker and take the responsibility, because that's, you know, 9 times out of 10 what they want too. They're in business, you know, in their own business, and they have the freedom and you know, beauty of being farmers out in those landscapes. But then this whole idea of being tied down and forced into a corner and not being able to be their own decision maker, that brings around a lot of frustration. So, you know, bringing in the support that helps empower them again to you know, back to what was originally the reason why they probably got into farming. You know, trusting gut instinct is just, you know, on our call today, we had a community call today, and somebody was talking about coaching somebody that's also got an agronomist, and then there's this difference of opinion. So you've got their agronomist saying that, you know, they needed to spray out that paddock and you know, kill all the weeds, and then the coach saying, but what do? I'm saying to do other. And I just said, go back to the goals of that person, and which was that they did want to plant a multi-species crop, and ask them, you know, a salad bowl mix, she called it, which is beautiful. So the person that she's working with, I said, how did they feel about that? Actually assign a feeling to that. So, okay, I feel, you know, comfortable, at ease, beautiful, great. And then when they said, and then I went to the agronomist and they said, no, you got to spray that out and, you know, sow this, you know, single species crop, and then ask, how do you feel about that? And then, okay, from what I could understand, it was real like fear. And, you know, that I wouldn't actually like to be in that position, the expert telling you what to do. So then coach that person to listen to their gut. So see, the difference in coaching is that they're actually not saying, don't spray, don't do this. They're actually just saying, like, go inside yourself and really speak to your inner self, or whatever it is that you want to refer to, and sort of see what's right for you, and then you be that decision maker, because that's what we're all afraid of. It's like, what if I tell them not to do it, and then that idea fails? But yeah, so.
Here to this, Hugo always says to me and to people in our community as well that we need to be spiritual, we need to be more connected. And, you know, spiritual farmers, as he would know from a lot of the greats that have come before us, about they are the ones that are the best farmers, because they know how to read their landscape, they know the patterns of the wind. And so when you get an external mentor, expert come on and say, you need to spray this, they've had no time to observe the landscape. They have no understanding of your long-term goals. They don't know what you want to do with your farm and what are your outcomes that you're trying to achieve. And they're just doing their task. You've said, I've got this. What do you do? They look at their, you know, symptom chart and go, this is what you need to be spraying at this many, you know, kilos a hectare. So it's everyone's just doing the best that they know, and there's no right or wrong. It's just different worlds and different paradigms. And so when we become spiritual, I love the fact that you've gone to, how does that make you feel? Because that's, you know, I've got a bad feeling about this, or this gut feeling stuff. This is the stuff that farmers don't really want to talk about, or it's starting to become a little bit more embraced. But that whole feeling and that intuition and being connected to the land and having First Nation people involved in your farm business plan and understanding different patterns, things that sometimes computer simulation and science and technology doesn't know how to explain, you know. And so that whole spiritual connection of how does that make you feel to spray an input or to let it, you know, do it regeneratively or naturally, I think that's a really key distinction that people just need to sit there and be observers. You know, farmers were always observers, and now it's just busy in your tractor, spraying stuff, tilling stuff, chopping stuff. You know, it's a very different one.
Yeah, so the coaching process is really about being thought-provoking, and it's a creative process. which is so different. And look, this is going to take it. It may not feel like a easy space to go into because it doesn't have that sense of guarantees. The strange thing is, though, a lot of like there's nothing guaranteed about farming anyway. So, going back to what I said before about learning through trials, observing and mimicking nature, that's actually a much better bet to be able to get long-term outcomes, but we've lost that sense of how to do it or lost confidence. So this is where the coach can come in.
One of the things that I find, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on this, is that a lot of farmers are making decision based on their runway or their finances and when the bank's going to come knocking. So how do you advise when it comes to what I call like transitional finance, or being able to kind of because everyone wants to see the yields next year, and sometimes there's a bit more delayed gratification that needs to happen in this space. And often than not, from the case studies I'm seeing thrown at me by the bucket load now, is that most people over a 3 to 5 year period start seeing yields and protein values and quality increases that are far and beyond. How do you get there, and how do you assist finance, and how do you talk to your bank and say, don't worry, I've got this, but it's regeneratively done, how do you solve that problem?
Well, I mean, no doubt mistakes can be made if we just jump in and just switch one system for another without really understanding it. So there's no guarantees in that sense. But if you properly, I guess, study the whole, it's more of a holistic approach where you actually spend time with the bank manager. Now, I first learnt this from Ian and Di Haggerty from years ago when it was really not talked about, it was really quite radical for them to talk about biological farming. And they would get the bank manager out on the harvester and really get them involved in the business. And, not saying that was easy either, but if you have I think if you're going to try something different, don't just change the practice, actually explain the whole, you're going to have to explain the whole process and the fact that you might not get short-term wins or they're just not visible. That's always the struggle with the soil, isn't it? That it's often at a microscopic level. But yeah, I suppose I don't have an easy answer to you other than the mistake is just switching without actually understanding everything that you're doing as you're doing it and taking that's what we talk about, creating positive feedback loops. So actually seeing that, some things might look a bit ugly in the process but the feedback loop would be in the quality of the increased quality in the soil, healthy soils and that sort of thing. So so taking the whole picture.
I think you've done it. That is exactly kind of what I've realized as well, is the challenge is that people discover this new biological farming, soil health. You learn this stuff and you can't just change it all at once. You need to have a plan. You need to have a game plan, I guess. And it's like, this season, we're going to focus on these 6 paddocks out of the 50, and you slowly transition. It reduces the risk. You break the big task into micro chunks and bite it one bite at a time, as opposed to going all in. And that's hard sometimes, because when your values change and you go, I don't want to use inputs, they're scary and dangerous. Sometimes you need to make the right decision. Maybe some years you still need to till until you slowly wean off that. Some people go, that's it, I'm selling my tiller. No, that's the wrong approach. That will set you up for failure. So I think what you said as well, having a plan, inviting people on and seeing is believing as well, get them to buy into that
you have to take the whole story to the bank manager, I guess. And we always learnt a lot about trials through Martin Stapper as well. He certainly never said to do everything one way. Like, you can't have observations unless you've got something, some sort of control. So whenever we asked him questions and we got the similar sort of answer, we go, right, we get how to do trials now. So it's like existing program, half and half of a changed program, and then the total of the new program. So the way we look at it is having three things or 4 things, a control with nothing at all as well. This is trials in a paddock, have things to compare, and you have questions that can hypotheses that can be tested and analysed at the end. But I think all farmers and are scientists, but so sometimes they shy away from trials, and they say, oh well, if it's going to work, I'll put it on everything. But you don't get the information that you need if you do it that way.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think I know that in some of the discussions we've had before, and in the bio that you filled out for this, you spoke about the resilience through diversity. And I love the fact that you went like of soil, microbes, seeds, plants, people, thinking, and business. Like that's a long list. And I got excited when I saw that. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because that's that zoomed out. You see the many parts of the whole. Where some people look at diversity and they think it's just the bug counts or how many animals are on the paddock or the number of species of grass. But I like to take that deeper, and I see that you think like that as well. Can you share with soil lovers a little bit more about the connectivity from, thinking, business, plants, people, microbes?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and like as you said, that there's been a lot of discussion and very exciting around microbes and needing that diversity in plants and all those different root systems and that sort of thing. But I guess I'm the people person coming from. If I was to have a superpower, it's probably around collaboration, and it's probably a bit the same with you, Ray. Bringing different people together, there's like synergies, as I was saying before. That it just brings about potential solutions or outcomes that are far greater than the sum of the individual parts. So that's sort of the definition of synergy, and that's again a real base principle of what we're doing. So if you look for the weirdness, the uniqueness in different people, then you tend to find things that are otherwise overlooked in the mainstream. So when we're all just trying to fit in, we're dumbing down those parts. So that's the people thing. And the business thing, well, that's actually something I learnt back in Nice. In that Nice program from a long, long time ago, they actually said that if you're not offering something different, then they're actually not going to pass you in that course. So, you have to actually be doing something that's not the same as others. So unique types of businesses. So again, we can still be like a village, and that's why we get along so well, because we see not competing businesses, but we see collaboration and how much greater. And we know that you're great at podcasts and courses and things like that. And yeah. Well, and do I want to go and try and be great at that? It's like, well, I'll leave that to you. And so you've got the people and the business side of things, but the fact that it actually brings resilience is nice too. Is there's sort of I think I'm going to say that magic is the glue. So that's what that's what makes it all work so well. And I'm going to tell you, my average day is speaking to the most incredible people. Like mostly it's been Australia and New Zealand. I even had someone from the UK the other day. But so what people are doing in different parts of the world is there's connections with our sameness, but it's just like, let's also learn about what's unique, and then we're building something that's even more resilient. So yeah, that creating resilience through diversity, that was sort of coined for our event we were going to have in Western Australia that got postponed because of COVID travel restrictions. But it was sort of like that term just went, well, that's more than one workshop. I think that's really the basis of what we're doing. So the more unique and interesting people we meet each day, we just sort of find what I guess I refer to them as superpowers. Well, I love to find out what people's superpowers are. What's your standout? It's like a gift.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you combine a gift and a passion with a purpose, then you've got the sweet spot. I don't know if you've heard of Dave Pollard's work. He talks about, there's a book called The Sweet Spot.
I sure have.
Yes, right.
That's I say podcasting fills my cup up. This is my sweet spot. We have amazing conversations. I get to ask questions that I'm thinking. So there's a bit of like we're doing this together. But then I always say podcasting is like gifting the conversation to everyone else.
Yeah, cool.
I'm creating content that's a gift for everyone else. So it's real magical. Like, and it's like we're so in sync that when you said the glue and the magic, I was thinking, I often refer to myself as the glue. Like that was the word I was thinking. That you joined two together. And I was like, glue is like bringing people together, networking, collaborating. And I do also believe this too, that, the whole saying is a rising tide lifts all boats. Or ships, we just need to control climate change so we don't flood. But it's like, we need to be open and come from a space of abundance, that there is no competition. There is we're all working on this together. And embedding your unique self into the business, like it's not changeable. It's not replaceable. And I think that's what makes the world a real amazing place, is that diversity of thinking and people and viewpoints. And it saddens me a little bit that people's views are kind of getting shut down and discredited these days online. It's a bit toxic, and I'm a bit worried about that, because it's like, I think we need to be able to, especially on a farm space, and go, is that grass green, or is it a different color green, or is it yellow? Or like maybe we're seeing two different sides of the grass blade, and that means that we will make two different decisions of the same grass blade, So I was a big believer that a coin has three sides: a head, a tail, and the edge. We need to explore all of it. The edge. And you mentioned the edge before, that's why there's a lot of synergy. Like that edge is a magical place, because that tells so much story of the coin, whether it be heads or tails. So we do need to, share from all different angles.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is the point, segue, this is the point of our coaching community. That's the whole potential, and excited now that it's actually started, and we're going through the motions and we're learning along the way. And I mean, one of the coolest things, but it sounds quite funny, that somebody said to me, an agroecologist in New Zealand, he said, it was something, what I actually like most about what you're doing is that you don't know what you're doing.
Oh my God, he knows our secret.
and so it's all about, bringing us together, celebrating our differences and that the resilience in coming together, but then also leaving space for, learning and growing. So each week, like today, we had our first spotlight. So a spotlight is going to be, it's like a hot seat on week 2, where one of the coaches gets to, put forward it could be a business proposition or a challenge that they're receiving. And I didn't know how long it would take, in the 90-minute call. And, suddenly it was 5 minutes to the end of the call. And I said, I think we've got to wrap up. We got so engrossed and it was actually about, so the first week we talked about goal setting, which is really important to actually get down to specific goals. And then this next week, what came out of it was like, the services that farmers were wanting. So soil lovers, we would like help with this. We would definitely like to know any of the interesting services that you could be wanting. So things that you need, problems that you have, they can be the normal, but we've probably got a list of those, but like outside the norm. So we're looking, because what we did today was flip it. It's not about the services that the coaches can actually offer, but the problems that farmers, the obstacles farmers are having these days, and even if they have no idea that anyone could help them with a coach, you've got that ability to workshop it and brainstorm other options. So that's something that we're needing from the farming community.
Yep. And I love that. It's the top-down approach, top-up approach. It's like the grassroots. It's we come up in hierarchies where you get told what to do. You go to school and it's like, sit down, put your hand up, you need a hall pass. And so we're not really trained to be bottom-up thinkers, I love that. It's the grassroots. It's like, what are the problems, or what do people need help with? Ask for help, and squeaky wheel gets the oil. And then we go and all create. That's one of the things we do in our communities is we say, what do you need help with this month, this week? And then let's us find it. And sometimes it's about marketing or branding or something that we didn't even think was on people's minds, especially after COVID. Marketing your own farm gate and selling direct is a huge thing that farmers want to explore and solve. And some of them have solved it and gone, I don't want to do customer service stuff. Like I want to be back on the land, you know, and they realize that they can't do both, you know.
That's when we need the village.
Yes.
There's in somebody else that enjoys that, and then they can do that part. Yeah, for sure.
That's their sweet spot. Awesome. I want to ask our signature question. Are you ready to be voice of our soils?
Voice of our soils.
So, you're under the ground. You are now the biology of the soil. Embody the energy of our soil, and you've now got a magic mouth. So what would you tell us on the planet about your life as the soil?
Okay. What I would say is we are a community and we are all connected. And without all of us thriving, then there's quite a risk that all of us won't survive. So it's definitely a holistic approach that's needed. So we need the food that we can then share with each other, because I'm in the soil, aren't I? To be able to build our strengths. And if you just support us, with sunlight, water, and food, and a bit of air, then we'll do the rest.
Amen to that. Love it. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And that is a great distinction, that it's all connected, and the soil is thriving to survive. You know, it's working together, it's passing minerals and the fungi and the mycelium network. It's such a magical place, and yet we treat it like dirt. So thank you for that reminder, Rachelle. It has been so great chatting to you about all things soil and digging deeper together with our soil lovers today. How can our community hang out more with you? What some websites and ways that they can reach out?
Oh, thanks, Ray. I'm so glad you asked, because we're starting small, having only just, restarted this community in the last couple of months. So what we need is to build this network. So we need, as I said at the start, farmers, educators, and coaches. Everyone is welcome to join our network. So that is, go to Soil Restoration Farming website and you'll see join the network. And that, as I say, that's for everyone. And if you are interested to find out more about the coaching community, there's a page there, Coaching Community, and you can book a call with me. And there's a few questions asking things like, what do you want to achieve in the next 12 months, and a few basic things. And what I've found is, in answering those questions, it's a beautiful setup to having a conversation where, you're not starting from scratch. Basically anyone interested to collaborate, I'm absolutely open to. As I say, every day I'm talking to someone different about different types of collaboration. Sometimes I ring people and I just like what they're doing, and I say, is there anything here? And things come up. It's just amazing. Like last week, it was someone, Alan Walker from Earthwhile, and they teach microscope skills like the soil food web style. And they're literally teaching people to be able to do what they call qualitative biological soil assays that can give you a really, fair idea for a really low cost. So, that's something that the coaches and consultants can take on. So it's amazing what's possible. So, so that's probably the best thing, to go to the website. And if you're interested in the coaching community, book a call. That's the easiest. Yeah.
Soil lovers at soilrestorationfarming.com.au. As always, the links will be around this video if you're joining us on the Soil Learning Centre, or on the podcast listener that you're listening to. The links will always be there. And I think we'll sneak a few other links maybe to your Facebook and to other things, so that way people can connect with you and start that conversation. I think, that is a great thing, is like, just start speaking and it might go somewhere. And if not, you just have a really fun time.
Yeah, why not? Can I add one more thing to watch this space for our coaches? So as I say, we only just got started in September, and we'll be building profiles and being able to put those out to the public. So, farmers will soon be able to have a resource of really unique coaches that are so passionate about working with farmers. And in the early days, they'll be looking for, like people to learn from. So watch this space. And that's where I said, make sure you join the network so you can be first in best dressed for as we start, publicizing the profiles.
Love that. Well, you're here in a first Farming Secrets community. Get around it. I'm a big believer that your network is equal to your net worth, and whether that be financial or just wealth or knowledge, it is about being around like-minded people who are all in their sweet spots, lifting each other up, giving virtual high fives, but then maybe after COVID, physical high fives. So Rachelle, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing and lifting the tide for us all. Kudos to you and the team behind you.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really had fun. It was much easier than I thought. And always a pleasure to talk to you.
Lovely. So if you're a podcast guest out there, reach out to us, as you just heard from Rachelle. It is lots of fun, and I have so much fun doing this as well. So all you soil lovers out there, make sure that you get outside. It's getting close to summer. Get your hands dirty and keep digging deeper into our wonderful world of soils. Until next time, stay curious. Well, soil lovers, that's enough secrets for one episode. I really hope that you enjoyed all the secrets shared during this conversation. But hey, let's not keep it a secret. Please share this podcast around and make sure that you like it and leave us a review, because that really helps spread the secrets of the soil. Until next time, remember, get outside, get your hands dirty, and keep digging deeper into your soils.